Hey, what's up YouTube? This is the High Sparrow and welcome back to yet another Game of Thrones Season 8 video. Today I will review Season 8 Episode 4, The Last of the Starks. But before getting into the review, I would like to share a small prediction for the end of Game of Thrones. I came to think about how the plotline of the White Walkers wasn't given any backstory, and that it felt too anticlimactic to be true, and maybe it is. Because my thoughts wandered off to the cave paintings at Dragonstone, where we see someone resembling a leader of the White Walkers, and since he has a beard, he obviously didn't look like the Night King. And maybe the showrunners were trying to tell us that the Night King wasn't the first White Walker, and that there could be more White Walkers, including the bearded guy, present in the lands of Always Winter. That would make for an epic last scene to the series. Okay, now let's move on to the review of Episode 4. So, Episode 4 was, according to me, a pretty average episode by the standard of the recent seasons of Game of Thrones. It didn't have much great dialogue and no really epic action scenes, but it wasn't really bad either. But I will begin by giving my positive take on the episode. And to start off, I really enjoyed the Sansa and the Hound conversation. That was well written, in my opinion. Another scene with some solid writing was when Jaime left Brienne and Winterfell, after declaring that after all this time, he still isn't a good man. And it was actually quite a twist to Jaime's plotline, especially since he just had sex with Brienne. Another surprising moment that I liked was Missandei's death, since I felt that she was the kind of innocent and good-hearted character that couldn't get beheaded by the mountain in such a manner. It was also exciting to hear that there's a new prince in Dorne, and that Dorne will join the war, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing who the new prince could be, as well as seeing the Dornish army that we are yet to see in Game of Thrones actually. My last positive point for this episode is the scene in which Tormund says goodbye to Jon Snow. This scene stood out to me when Tormund said that Jon would be happier beyond the wall and that Jon has the real North in him. To me, that could very much be a foreshadowing of Jon going to spend the rest of his life beyond the wall after the war against Cersei is over and the governance of Westeros has been settled. Added to that, Jon didn't even say goodbye to Ghost, who has meant a lot to him during this journey, and I got the feeling that they will meet again, which obviously enhances the idea that Jon will return beyond the wall, since it's not very likely that Ghost will take a stroll down to King's Landing. Okay, now let's move on to what I didn't like about this episode. First things first, the Starbucks cup. Like, what the fuck? I mean, it's one thing to forget about Melisandre's necklace, like in Season 4, Episode 7. But you can't let a freaking Starbucks cup slip through all the retakes, edits, and rewatch before airing. Moreover, I can't really understand how only half of the Unsullied and the Northmen died during the Battle of Winterfell, considering how the living seemed to get completely slaughtered by the army of the dead, and Grey Worm even had to sacrifice a considerable bulk of his Unsullied in order to light the trenches. To round off, I also want to comment on Rhaegal's death, because first of all, Daenerys and her dragons had already reached Dragonstone, and they could have just landed in front of the castle, but no, she decides to go back and take one last flight. And when Rhaegal gets hit by the ballistas, he could have flown aside and away from the Greyjoy ships, instead of just keep on flying at the same speed in the same direction. And even considering that he didn't move much sideways, it would still be extremely difficult for the ballistas to hit a fast-moving target from such a long range. Alright, that will do it for this video. Please leave a like and subscribe for more Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire videos to come. #WhatTheFuckIsAlami.